Hello everyone. Maybe you've heard the news or maybe not, but it was recently announced that Barczyk has gone into hospice, and by the time you watch this, may have already passed away. I wanted to make a video today to celebrate his life and his legacy, and thank him for all that he's done. I've broken this video up into a few parts so you can skip around to what interests you or doesn't. I also appreciate all of you clicking on this video. Because of you, I'll be donating 100% of any ad revenue on this video to the GoFundMe, or if this video gets enough views, perhaps an exhibit sponsorship. And you can also donate through the video or in the link down below. I wanted to start this video off by going over my personal experience or journey with Brian and the very personal impact he's had on my life. I apologize if this section gets too indulgent into my life, but I feel it's important to share his impact on others. From before the age of 2, I was watching Steve Irwin. I was fascinated by him and the animals that he showed, mostly the reptiles. My parents didn't dare tell me in 2006 when he passed away, and I kept watching his documentaries as if nothing happened. But eventually, the documentaries started airing less, and I found out the truth. And while I still watch his documentaries to this day, I felt a gaping hole in my reptile lover's heart. In stepped a man with a ponytail wearing Hard Rock t-shirts in a warehouse in Michigan, someplace I thought I would never see reptiles. If Steve showed me the world of reptiles, Brian stepped into my life and showed me the wonderful side of keeping reptiles. I had only ever thought of reptiles as being in zoos, and yet here I got to learn about different reptiles you could keep and see how incredible they were. Was snake bites appropriate for how young I was? Probably, even if I never got the jokes back then. But the point was that for me, it opened my eyes to a whole new world. My family made a point to watch the episodes each week to laugh and also learn about snakes and lizards or whatever other species would be featured. I finally, and bittersweetly, had my only chance to meet Brian at a White Plains Reptile Expo, when he still toured around the country doing expos. I remember to this day going up to the booth and seeing him and the other members of the crew, and being so nervous to say anything. There's an old saying that you should never meet your heroes, and I was afraid, but eventually I must have caught his eye. "Hey bud, are there any snakes you want to take a closer look at?" He had a warm smile on his face when he said it. I know the stress of the show must have been intense, but I shakily nodded my head and pointed to one of the corn snakes. My brother and I got to handle a corn snake all while I fired off questions after question about them, which he happily answered. In the end, we did not buy a snake from him, and for me that says something more about his character. There were hundreds of adults and children ready to buy a snake from this man, this internet legend in the making, and yet he took the time and he made me feel like the only thing that mattered for that brief moment. To you, Brian, and to your family, I thank you for your kindness to little me. You have no idea where it's led. But that is, unfortunately, where my personal contact with Brian ended. I've watched his vlogs over the years as he's transitioned from a reptile breeder to a more focused breeder to a zoo owner, then a bigger zoo owner, and now in the process of building a huge aquarium. I planned to visit the aquarium once it was finished, and to tell him about that little boy that he inspired to love reptiles. That little boy he inspired to keep bearded dragons and his very own ball python, and eventually start a YouTube channel, so he could inspire people too. Hopefully this video and this story can be seen by him. Thank you, Brian. Thank you for touching people in this world so personally and with so much love. Brian, for the past few months, has talked often of his legacy. He even named an aquarium after that. And it has had me thinking, if I can go back, retrace his life, what kind of legacy has he left? And I want to share with you all the incredible legacy of this incredible man, broken down into his contributions to the reptile industry and as a man. Brian's legacy with reptiles seems at first complicated. Many are probably aware that years ago he was embroiled in controversies over his caretaking practices and his defense of the spider ball python. And yet, if you look at his career, what he's done, it's easy to see that Brian did more good than harm tenfold, if not 100-fold. An important thing to bring up when talking about Brian's legacy with reptiles in response to the last few sentences is that he has recognized his own fallibility. I understand that people may not agree with acknowledgement as absolving a person of past wrongs, nor should they, but in this case I hold Brian's admission as having a greater weight, and I'll talk a little bit more about that later. Many may not understand that one of Brian's main legacies was the explosion of the reptile industry with his help in the explosion of the ball python industry. If you go back and listen to podcasts he's done where he talks about the reptile industry before he arrived on the scene, it is clear that it was nothing like it is today. Reptile expos, if you could call them that, were held in people's basements and garages, and there were very few sales, with most keepers trading. Sure, I don't mean to overplay and say Brian started the industry. Many dozens of people deserve immense credit, and a handful of people besides Brian transformed the ball python space and also deserve credit. Yet Brian was with this group of people that transformed the hobby, in some ways bad, but in most ways good. Their work with ball pythons led reptiles to be seen as something popular, which led to celebrities owning reptiles. If you think about all the industries involved with reptiles, breeding, enclosures, feeding, bedding, lights, it is hard to imagine those industries would be anywhere near where they are today right now if it hadn't been for pioneers like Brian, who built this industry for us. In terms of pure and raw legacy, helping to form the bedrock of our entire industry, and indeed for many our entire lives, is surely justification enough to hail Brian as a hero for the reptile industry. Outside his contributions in literally building the industry from the ground up by breeding, Brian's impact on social media has also greatly contributed to the rise of acceptance of reptile keepers and reptiles. In the last section, I talked about the impact he had on me and how he inspired me to be the keeper and YouTuber I am today. His earliest videos always had a clear purpose in mind, to show the world that reptiles were not creatures to be feared, but rather loved and cared for. As he moved into the vlogging days, we got to see the more personal side of reptile keeping and of him, which I'll talk about in the next section. Brian has done a lot of things in his career with reptiles, which I don't even know if people realize. He made a documentary in Africa called Brian in the Wild, which you can watch on his YouTube channel. He was a star in the show Venom Hunters, which was his major foray into television. All of his social media contributions stand outside of the fact that now he has created a legacy that will hopefully last decades longer than any relevance can ever last on the internet. He's created a large reptile zoo that will transform into a true educational and conservation-focused aquarium. His journey through the reptile industry is important as much as it is an inspiration to everyone, working from a broke teenager to opening a world-class facility. Many look back at Brian's reptile keeping and continue to scrutinize, but I look not at individual faults as he went along, because he was there from the start, where they had to figure things out. Instead of judging a person based on their keeping habits 30 years ago, we can look to the legacy Brian has left today, and that is one of excellent quality of care for his animals, which he has showcased to millions, if not billions, of viewers. I left this section towards the end of the video because, to me, his impact beyond reptiles is what's often underlooked, but also equally, if not more, important. Brian Barczyk left behind a beautiful family and crew who have said in videos about him how much he means to them. I won't steal their words here. The one thing throughout every single video is that Brian is or was a man of hard work, but overflowing love for others and for life as well. My personal experience with him speaks to that, as does the thousands who have written down their own encounters with him, highlighting that he isn't just a YouTube personality, he's a good man. I also wanted to talk about Brian's other main impact outside of reptiles, something that's flashed here and there, but has been very important to him and to me and to others. When the controversies began about the spider ball python, Brian received a lot of hate. I remember being a teenager, sometimes feeling the pressure of life, but not understanding, luckily, the weight of cyberbullying, having never experienced it. However, I watched for 27 minutes how this great man, this strong man, sat in front of a camera telling the world how difficult cyberbullying can be, how it sucks the drive to live out of a person. I know from reading comments on the video how much that meant to people. For him to advocate publicly for people who probably don't have many advocates is a powerful message. I urge people to watch videos like those to see a different side of Brian, a side that he often tried to not show in the vlogs, a side that truly cared deeply about humanity and how we interact with each other, even when he got to witness some of the best and the worst of humanity. A few years later, he devoted a lot of attention to his lifelong struggles with anxiety, and yet still documented the whole experience. I should clarify, I've never dealt with anxiety personally, so I'll speak lightly here, but judging by the comment sections once again, it is clear to me that for so many people out there, Brian brought them light in their darkest days. Whether that was through entertainment or by acknowledging that he went through very human problems too. Through his struggle with cancer, it has been clear that he has served as an inspiration for many out there battling through difficult diseases, including cancer. His ability to show up every day through most of his treatment was an inspiration to many who have gone through the draining process of cancer treatment. I hope that when people think of Brian Barczyk, they think of the work he did building a reptile industry. But besides that, I hope they think also about his contributions towards breaking down the stigma around mental health. God only knows in this world today the pressures of society are immense, and mental health has become a crisis. Only by having people that are respected as heroes can stigmas finally be broken down. And Brian did it the only way he knew how, with 100% honesty and vulnerability through a vlog. Brian's life has been one of immense impact, and it's hard to say that there will be a figure in the reptile industry with as much influence and held in such high regards as Brian again. I have wondered throughout writing this video whether to compare Brian to Steve Irwin, and in the end, I've decided that it's an easy decision to put those two great men, along with others who probably deserve recognition, alongside each other. From his battles to grow the industry which cares for the reptiles he loves, to sharing that love to billions of people across the globe, to standing up for mental health advocacy, it is clear that Brian is no Steve Irwin, but in his own way, in his own different way, he made just as much of an impact on this earth during his time here. As a young and new member of the reptile YouTuber space, it falls now to a new generation, not to try and fill the shoes of these great men ourselves, but to work together as one, to hope to fill half the shoes combined that either of these men could fill themselves. I will seek to do that for the rest of my time here on YouTube. The next section is some of my favorite clips documenting Brian's career somewhat chronologically over time. I hope you enjoy some of these as many of you enter the grieving process. To the family of Brian, my heart and the hearts of millions go out to you, and we pray for you in this time. Thank you, Brian, for everything you've done, for the billions of people touched by you, and everything you've done for me. I hope whenever you make it, you enjoy running around with Steve, catching crocodiles. Whenever you make it, may you rest in peace.
Do you really want to go into how and why you got them?
Well, sure.
And how you were begging for forgiveness and you were so sorry and you were almost crying because I was so mad?
Lori?
I made her give me a present.
Hey, you guys still Lori, are you serious?
You're an idiot.
And still got your,
idiot.
No, I'm serious though. Are you really mad? I need to know.
You don't care. If you did that, you don't care.
No. See what's happening.
No.
Would you have been happy with Quested?
Seriously, let me explain.
Quested?
A guy came up and he was like, hey, I've got these leopard geckos cheap. And they were super cool. And he's like, I'll give you a great deal on these. Are you interested?
Karen, you
And I said, well, yeah, those are sweet. And I go, I'll take them. But I don't care. Just bring me that money or else. Listen, I'm in the snake business. I got earners. I got earners all over the place. I got earners in the street. I got them in the alleys. I got them. Tell you what, you better bring me that money or else.
Be in there, be in there, be in there.
Holy crap, it's in! Oh my god, dude!
Oh my god! It's a scaleless thing, dude. It is a scaleless ball python.
Scaleless
Oh my god, dude.
Yeah!
Oh, dude. Yeah.
Unlocking the door and letting people in. Hey guys, what's going on? How are you, man? How's everything going? Hi, how are you guys? Thank you guys for waiting. Come on, how are you? Hey, how's it going? Hey, what's up? It's good to see you guys.
Good to meet you.
Hey, thanks for waiting so long. Hey guys, what's going on? Hey.